Hello everyone, good morning. Am I audible, guys? Can you able to hear me?
Yes, Sai.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. Okay. So today we are going to start a new tool, Git. So see here, as I told you, that DevOps interview starts with AWS, Linux. After that, they'll start asking questions on Git tool. I mean, the DevOps tools. Okay, DevOps tools. So we have so many DevOps tools like Git, Chef, Ansible, Jenkins. We have so many DevOps tools. So first they will ask AWS, after that Linux. In DevOps tools, first they will touch Git, guys. 95%. Okay. First they'll touch Git only. After Git, we cannot say they can take any of these tools. We have so many DevOps tools, right? Okay. First they'll touch Git. Now nowadays Git is not only a DevOps tool. Okay, it is for everyone in the company. It is not only for DevOps units. It is for everyone in the company. Everyone. Okay, even if you're a developer, tester, support, everyone, each and everyone will have Git account. Just like everyone they have Outlook account, right? Outlook. Just like they use Outlook, they use Business Skype. So same, each and everyone they have to use Git nowadays. That's why it is common for everyone, each and everyone. So that's why in DevOps tools, interview starts with Git in DevOps tools. After that, they'll go to some other tool. Then we cannot say which tool they will take. 95% they will start after Linux. They will start with Git. Understood, right? It is for everyone. It is not only for DevOps engineers. Okay, very very important tool, Git. Okay, so we'll start with Git. So see here, we have a concept called source code management. For first 5 minutes, we are not going to discuss about Git, guys. Okay, we are talking about source code management here, not Git. Okay, source code management. Source code means whoever writes a code. Who can write the code? See here, developers, not developers. They write the code. Don't think that only developers will write the code. No, testing team they'll write some test cases. DevOps units, we are going to write some scripts that you are going to learn in our subsequent classes like Chef and Ansible, all these. Okay, so anyone can write the code. Anyone. Okay, anyone can write the code. The code they will store in one repository. We can call storage. The code which they write, they will store in one storage. You can call this one as a repository. So the code will be stored here. That means it's a simple storage. Okay, it's a simple storage. Anyone can store their code here. Anyone can store their code here. So don't think that generally people have very wrong perception. So code, who writes the code? Developers write the code. Only developers keep the code. No, not only developers. It is not only for the developers. It is for others as well. It is for, literally it is for each and everyone in the company. We have a bank. Okay, in bank people save their money, right? So bank is not only for rich people. Video accept, they store a lot of money, they keep a lot of money, but it is for poor people as well, poor guys as well. Anyone can store, anyone can create their account, anyone can keep their data. I mean, can store their money. Same here, HCM is here. We are going to use a storage that is for everyone. Okay, so source code, the code is being generated from these guys, and management will manage that code. We'll update that one, we delete that one, we edit that one, and we'll do a lot of modifications, everything we do. appending, everything. That is what management. Source code management. We are managing source code. Okay. Now, different people from different teams can store simultaneously. For example, see here, this is the team in India, this is team in UK, this is team in US, this is a team in Australia. So different people from different teams, they can store. We have only one storage. They can store. They can keep their code here. They can store here. Okay. There will not be any confusion. There will not be any overlap. Anything. Okay. So there is a clear-cut demarcation among the code. I mean the code. Which which is being kept by these guys. I'll draw one clear diagram. See here. This is storage. These are okay. Let's take only two teams. Okay, they are also keeping the code. These are also storing that code. There won't be any confusion, guys. There's a clear-cut demarcation. Okay, whenever they want to retrieve the code, they can retrieve clearly. Whenever these guys want to retrieve the code, they can retrieve clearly. Okay, different people. Not only see here, this even it's a big team, right? Inside we have so many team members. Okay, so different people from different teams, as well as different people from the same teams can store code simultaneously. Can store code simultaneously. Save all changes separately. Okay, all changes means the complete code. It's stored separately. There won't be any confusion. There is a clear-cut demarcation and separation. Okay, so that whenever you want to retrieve that code, you can retrieve very, very easily. Okay, without any confusion. Can work on different features simultaneously. Can work on different features simultaneously. See here, different features. For example, you got a project. Okay, the project is all about create a Google Chrome application. You have to write a code to create Google Chrome application. Okay, see here that Google Chrome should support. We should be able to install in Windows. We should be able to install in Linux. We should be able to install in Android. Right? These are different operating systems. That means some features we need to add with respect to Windows, right? We need to add Windows features so that it will support Windows as well. We need to add Linux features. We need to add Android features, right? That means we need to write code separately to add Windows features, Linux features, Android features. Finally, I'll mix all these code and finally I'll get Google Chrome application. That Google Chrome application will support each and every OS. So what I can do simply, this is storage. So this is my team. This is me. Okay, I'm writing code. Can work on different features. See here, I can simultaneously work on all these features. This I'm working for Windows, Linux, Android. Working means I'm writing the code so that Google Chrome will support Windows. So that I'm adding Windows features in Google Chrome. Okay. So simultaneously I'm working on all these features simultaneously. Suppose first 1 hour I have worked in here. So I have written the code for Windows. I felt bored after 1 hour. I again switched to Linux. Again I felt bored. Again I went back to Windows. Again I came to Android, like that. So simultaneously I can work on different features simultaneously. For example, here in your Windows, in your laptop, you can open PPT and you can work on PPT for half an hour. After that, you can minimize that PPT. You can open Notepad for half an hour. After that, you can minimize that one and you can work on Word document for half an hour. After that, once you feel bored, again you can go back to PPT, you can start working. Again Notepad, again PPT, again this Word. You understood, right? Simultaneously you are working on all these things. So same here, simultaneously you can work on different features. There won't be any confusion, there won't be any overlap and all. Okay, proper demarcation is there. It acts like a pipeline between offshore and onshore teams. It acts like a pipeline. See here. because theory is very important. First, you should know what is this and why people are using this. Okay, it acts like a pipeline between offshore and onshore teams. See here, this is my storage. This is my storage. So let's take two teams. This is India. This is Australia. India, Australia, this is source code management. That's what storage. So here, India, the team members from India, they kept code. They have written 10% code. They kept their code here in source code management. Okay, so they finished their work on the day. So they go to sleep. On the day for Australia, it's a, let's say US. So the timings are pretty easy. US. So for us it is night, for them it is morning, right? So whole day India, team members from India, they work, they have written a lot of code, they kept in source code management and they finished their work on the day night. They kept that code in source code in this repository. So for them US guys it is morning, right? So what they do, they want to write the code from the scratch again. What they do, they will take this code, 10% of code. On top of that, they will write some more code. So totally that became 20. So that day night, US guys again, they will put the code back here. Now it is become 20. So India guys, what they do, they will take this code before they start their work. So already they have 20%. They will write some code on top of that, that become 30. Okay, again they will keep here. That is 30. So this will take and it will become 40 like that. So every time the team member, they won't write the code from the scratch. Okay, they'll append the code. Okay, like this. So it acts like a pipeline between these teams, right? Git acts like a pipeline between these teams. Okay, that's how we do it. So it helps in achieving teamwork. Obviously, here all are working as a team because we all are working in a one project. That code belongs to only one project. That is what Google Chrome. Okay, so it helps in achieving teamwork. So helps in achieving teamwork, fine. We can put some policies, like we can restrict who can access, who cannot access. Okay, and we can make people to follow some rules. So by using Git hooks, we are going to achieve that. See here, we can put some policies. For example, who can access this source code, who cannot access. We can use some restrictions, we can put some restrictions. For example, any fresher is there. Okay, so we have created GitHub account, Git account, but we can put some restrictions. Okay, till the time he get familiarity with the usage of Git. So during that time, if he wants to send the code, if you want to store the code, he cannot say. That kind of restrictions we can put. As well as being a manager, I want an email notification. Whenever if someone puts some data, I want a notification. Okay, so everything we can set by using Git. Track defects and track changes, that too at a minute level. See here, no one can manipulate the data. The storage is right here. Okay, so they kept the code here. No one can manipulate the data. That means, suppose if you have 1 lakh lines, 1 lakh lines of code. In that, even if you miss one dot, if you change one small dot, okay, everyone will come to know that something happened. Someone deleted that dot. Who he deleted and what time he deleted and why he deleted. Each and every member, team member will come to know. Even if you delete a small dot from 1 lakh lines. Okay, that's why it will track changes at a minute level. No one can manipulate the data. Okay, so whatever you do, that will be in the knowledge of each and every person in your team. That's why it is pretty secure. Okay, see, at the end of the day, it is all about data and its security, right? Security is very, very important. So that's why no one can manipulate this data. It's very pretty secure. Okay. So far whatever we discussed, right? This is the concept of source code management. So cloud is a concept, guys. Cloud is a process concept. We achieve that cloud by using either AWS, either Azure, either GCP. Understood it? Okay. So cloud is a concept. Those are cloud providers, Azure, AWS, GCP. So source code is a concept. Source code management is a concept. We achieve this one by using some of the tools. Okay, some of the tools. That means whatever we discussed so far, okay, that we can achieve by using any of these tools. Okay, the advantages that we are getting, if you by using any of these tools, you can use any tool. Okay, so these are the tools. This is concept. We achieve this concept by using any of these tools. So we have Git, SVN, we call subversion, Perforce, ClearCase. Like we have so many tools in the market. So, but mostly people are using Git. Mostly people are using Git. Earlier people used to use SVN, Subversion. Nowadays people are using Git. Why? Because we have so many advantages on them. Whatever we discussed in the second slide, that is common to each and every tool. Okay, understood. So mostly we are using Git. I think you are also using Git in your companies. Yes, how many of you are using Git in your companies? Please respond.
We are using.
Okay.
Nilesh.
Okay, some three to four guys. So please, I mean, give indication in chat board so that I will come to know how many of you are using. Just type your names in chat board. Those who are using Git in your companies.
Sai, I have one question. In the first slide,
Yeah.
Git will track the defects. Can you please elaborate that?
Yes. Yeah, I'll explain that. Nilay Santosh Venkat. Okay.
There is also Bitbucket called. It is the same as Git or
Yes.
Bitbucket is separate?
I'll tell you. I'll explain that.
Yeah.
Okay. So guys, okay, these three guys are using Git. Nilesh, Santosh, and Venkat. So how many of you are using Subversion, guys? SVN? Subversion.
Yeah, it's me, Shiva.
Shiva. Okay. So Palanivel and Nisba and Shiva. So you guys are using Subversion. Okay. Okay, fine. So coming to Bitbucket, don't worry. So once I explain GitHub, in next slides I'm going to explain GitHub. Okay, there I will introduce Bitbucket as well. Okay, there you will understand better. Okay, don't worry. That is there. Anyways, that is there in my next slides. Okay. So it tracks the changes and defects, minute level. So see here, defects in the sense, suppose you can think it's a small, mistakes or not only defects here. See here, suppose you did a mistake, in the code. Okay, so you did any mistake in the code while writing the code. So that will be tracked. That means even if you edit that one, okay. So even see here, I'll tell you. For example, you'll understand this point better in our next slides. What actually happens? Suppose you have stored a lot of code. In this code, somewhere you did some mistake. You don't know where is that. Okay. So here Git is providing one very good mechanism so that you can pick that defect easily. Okay. So we have you kept code in 100 areas. Okay. In one area you have one defect that you don't know. Okay, while doing the build, it was throwing that error, but you don't know where exactly the error is. So you cannot verify each and every code, right? By using it, simply you can track that defect, where exactly you did that mistake. Okay, that I'll explain anyways, in an elaborative mode, I'll explain clearly, then you will understand. Okay. We can track the defects as well as we can track the changes. Okay, where exactly you did that mistake and who changes means who did what at what time. Understood? Anyways, you will get better clarity in our coming slides. Got it?
Yes, I am.
So, see, important terminology, you should know the terminology that we use a lot in it. Here, the terminology that you can see here, right? So it is not only belongs to Git. So this some words we use in Git, some words we use in some subversion. A few words we use in other source code management tools. Okay. So see here, this is a terminology that we use in all tools, almost each and every tool. First one, repository. Repository is a place where you store the code. Where you store the code. So in Git we call repository. In some other tools like some other perforce we call depot. Okay, we call depot. So both are functionality is same. Just naming is different. Since these are different tools, they are given different names. That's it. So server is a place where you store multiple repositories. Okay, where we can store multiple repositories. So server contains one or more repositories. Okay. So workspace, workdir, worktree. Okay. So workspace is a guys. I'm getting some background noise. Can someone please go on mute? Okay, thank you. So workspace is a place here. In some tools we call workspace. In some tools we call workdir. Some tools we call worktree. Okay. It is a place. It is a place where you work, where you write the code physically. Okay, later on in next slide, I'm going to show that architecture of Git. There you will understand better. Okay. So workspace is the area where you write the code physically, where you create one files you write the code physically. That's what your workspace. That is what we call workspace. Branch. So in Git we call branch, in SVN we call trunk, in some other tools we call code line. Okay, almost same. See here, we are working on different tasks simultaneously. I give an example, right? We are working on Windows features, adding code with respect to Windows, adding code with respect to Linux, with respect to Android for Google Chrome. So what I can do, I can work simultaneously on different features at a time. So for each and everything we create a branch. For each and every work, we create a branch. Okay. So that means we are working on the branch. We are writing the code here in branch. So if you are in this branch, that means you can work for Windows. You can switch branches like that. So that branches helps us in achieving, in doing work simultaneously in different tasks. Commit. Commit means keeping the code in the repository. We call commit. Keeping the code in the repository. We call commit. Commit means, yes, we have stored our code in a repository. That's what commit. We use this word in Git, and this word we use in subversion, checking. Okay. Version ID or commit ID. So whenever you put the code, you save the code in the storage. We call that process commit, right? Keeping the code in the storage, we call the process commit. Okay. For each and every commit, you will get an ID. That's what you can call version or version ID or commit ID. Okay, for each and every commit, you will get one ID. That's what we call commit. So tag. Tag means here commit ID contains alphanumerical numbers, commit ID. So we cannot remember that commit ID, right? Because it is a combination of alphanumeric characters. So that's why we give a tag to that commit ID. So that instead of referring that commit ID, every time we can refer the tag. That's very easy. We can remember easily. Okay. So hope you understood this terminology. What is this terminology? Okay. Now we'll see one by one. See here. I'll draw here Git architecture. This is your laptop. Here you have Git repository. I'll tell you how to create repository and all. This is your laptop. Here in your laptop we have Git repo. So whenever you create Git repository, in this Git repository we have 3 sections. Generally we have 3 sections. Git repository. One section we call workspace. Inner section we call staging area or indexing area. Stage or index. I'll tell you what is the meaning of each and every. And third section we call local repo. Third section we call local repo. And we keep one central repo somewhere outside. Okay, we call that one central repo. This is the architecture of Git. Okay. So workspace, staging area, local repo, central repo. So your entire Git repo also sometimes they consider as a local repo. Local repo. Okay. So see here, I mean sometimes. So either you can call local repo this one or this one. Local repo means that repository which is in your computer. Central repository means somewhere outside. So especially in your computer, especially if you talk about local repository. So here we have three sections: workspace, staging area, and local repository. Local repository. Okay. So now we'll see one by one. First one, repository. It's a storage, that means a folder related to one product. Changes are personal to that particular repo. See here. So repository. So I told you it's a storage. Repository is a storage where we keep code. It's a storage related to one product. For example, Google Chrome. One product. Changes are personal to that particular repo. So see here, we have two repositories. Just consider two repositories. So whatever you do, other repository will not come to know. Whatever you do here, this will not come to know. Because there are two are completely different. Okay, that's what we call repository. Either you talk about central repository or local repository. Okay, so for one product, we create one repository. Changes are personal to that particular repository. Whatever you do here, this will not come to know. Whatever you do here, this will not come to know. Completely separate. Server. Server, it stores all repos. So we keep multiple repos here, server. And apart from that, server contains metadata. Metadata means it's a data about some data. So it contains the complete information about repositories. When we have created, what are the repositories, how many repositories we have, and how many users we have in that server. Okay, all this. Metadata means it's a complete data about that particular server. That's all metadata. We call data about data. Metadata means data about data. Okay. So coming to branch. See here, what actually we do here. In workspace, first we create a file. In workspace, we write code here. Then after that, what we do? We commit. I told you, right? Process of storing the code. In repository, we call commit. So that comes and stored here. Don't worry about the staging area. Why it is coming in this way? I'll tell you later on. So this process we call commit. This is workspace. We have written a lot of code, and we stored the code inside this local repo. That process we call commit. That means that got stored in local repository. See here, you cannot store code directly into local repository. You cannot store. So you have to store that code in a branches. So branches will be in a local repository. Okay, these are branches. Suppose you want to save your money in the bank. Okay, you want to save your money in bank. What you do? You go to bank and you will dump money inside bank. From outside, you will throw money inside bank. No, right? You store in a lockers, right? They keep one locker, and inside that you will store. The same thing, the code will be stored inside branches. Okay, these are branches. Okay, so that's what we can create a number of branches. Simultaneously, you can work on multiple features. Okay, so you can create any number of branches. So see here, this is your Git repo, working area, working, staging area, local repo. Product is same, so one repository. That means this is completely one repository. Product object, so it. So since it is one product, I'll create only one repository. For one product, one repository. But different features are there. Simultaneously, I should be able to work on different features. I need to add Windows features, Linux features, as well as Android features. So that's why we create multiple branches. For each and every feature, we create a branch so that you can work on simultaneously. Right now, you are working on it's Windows, Linux, Android. You are working here to add Windows features. So you felt about suddenly you can switch to immediately you can switch to Linux. You can switch to Android. Again, you can come back like that. You can write codes in different branches. So finally, at the end of the day, what we do, we combine the whole code, because at the end of the day, we need to provide only one Google Chrome application. We don't have these many Google Chrome applications, right, for Windows or Linux. So we'll combine all these codes so that we'll get one complete application. Each feature has one separate branch. That's what's here. Each feature has separate branch. Finally, merge all branches. Finally, we merge all branches so that we'll get one complete common code. It is for parallel development. Branching concept is for parallel development. You can develop parallelly. Multiple things you can develop parallel simultaneously. That's what you are working on, different features, right? So that's what parallel development. Windows points to particular change. If you observe here carefully, it's a window points to particular change. So see here, don't worry, let's keep this point aside. Okay, now you won't understand this one. Once I show this one practically, then you will understand better. So don't worry about this point. Let's keep this one aside. Can create any number of branches. See here, can create any number of branches. There is no limit. Can create one branch on the basis of another branch. So already we have Windows branch. Based on this branch, you can create another branch. Based on this branch, you can create another branch. Okay, right now you are in Windows branch. You can create, being here, you can create another branch. Like that. Based on one branch, you can create another branch. In this case, if you create branches like this, for example, let's take only 2 branches. Okay, so this is one branch. Now you have some code here. Now based on this, you are creating another branch. So for the first time, that code will be copied here as well. If you create a branch based on another branch, the new branch will have same code which old branch is having for the first time. Later on, whatever data you add here, that it will not come to know. Whatever you add here, it will not come to know. So while creating only, the new branch will have the data of the data which is present in old branch. For example, later on you have added a lot of code here. Now based on this branch, you are going to create one more branch. So for the first time, that branch will have this code. After that, whatever you add here, this will not come to know. You add here, this will not come to know. Understood? So can create one branch on the basis of another branch. That already we have seen. Changes are personal to that particular branch. I told you, right? Changes are personal to that particular branch. Can put files only on the branches. See here, can put files. That's what we write code. We keep that files only in branches only, not directly in a repository. Default branch is master. Whenever you create local repository, you will get one branch. The name will be master. See, they are giving a name master. It doesn't mean that it's actually a master. No, it won't control other branches or anything like that. Just the name they have given like that. You can create one more branch. You can give master of master. You can give one more branch. You can create one more branch. You can give name super master. Like that. You can give any name. Okay, don't go with the name master. It's not actually a master. It will not control other branches. Okay, the name they have given like that. So you'll get one branch. By default, the name is master. That's it. So let's keep this point also aside. These 2 points you will understand later once I show practically. These two. Even if I explain now, you'll get so many doubts. Instead of that, I'll show practically, then you'll understand better. Okay. Now, see, your branching concept is very, very important in Git. It's a mandatory question. Question also, I'll tell you what kind of question they'll ask. What is branching strategy in Git? They will ask this question for sure. Without this question, there will not be a DevOps interview. Okay. So you have to explain each and every point. Okay. So coming to workspace. So workspace or working directory. See here, this is a place where you work. This one, right? This is a place. I'm talking about this place. This is a place where you write, where you store some code, where you write physically. I'll draw here. This is workspace. This staging area. This is local level. So we are talking about this one. Workspace or workday here. So where you work, you are writing some code, you are creating some file, you are keeping some code. That's what. Okay. So where you see files physically and do modifications. Where you can see files physically, you can create files, you can do modifications, everything. So same in common workspace. See here, for each and every branch, there is a same and common workspace. Same and common workspace. At a time points to particular branch. So at a time the workspace points to particular branch. Okay. For example, we have branch called A, branch called B. So right now this workspace is a entire workspace is pointing to branch A, for example. Now if you commit, that will go and store in that particular branch only. For example, I have created a file. Now the workspace is pointing to branch B. Now if you commit, that will go and sit in this branch only. I'll show you how to switch branches and all, how to change this one, everything practically. As of now, understand this one. We have one common workspace. Okay. At a time, that workspace, at any point of time, that workspace points to particular branch. So that if you commit, data will go and sit inside that branch. Okay. Version or version ID, commit ID. So I told you that for each and every commit, you'll get an ID called commit ID, version ID, version. So reference to identify each change. It is to identify who kept that code at what time, why he kept that code. Okay, everything. Every time you store the code, you get one commit ID. If someone wants to get that code, they will simply refer this commit ID. Okay. To identify each change and who did the change. Okay, to identify each change and who did that change, who did what. Come to tag. So here it's a meaningful name it's a meaningful name because here commit ID contains commit ID contains 40 long alphanumeric characters. 40 long alphanumeric characters commit ID contains. So we cannot remember this commit ID, right? It's a very, very big one. So that's why we assign a tag to this commit ID. It's a meaningful name. We assign a tag to this commit ID. So that simply we can refer that tag every time. Every time instead of referring that commit ID, we can refer that tag. Okay. Now.
Commit ID numbers are same, like it will be always 40 only?
Yes, 40 only. But for each and every commit, you'll get different commit IDs. Okay. Understood? Understood this one?
Yes.
Okay. So So why we need to use Git? What is the purpose? Why do we need to use Git? That means we are getting so many advantages in Git. So that means these advantages are not there in some other tools like SVN or Postgres. So why only Git? These advantages are only for Git. If you use Git, then only you get all these advantages. Okay, if you use any other tool, you won't get these advantages. Okay, so first advantage of Git, it's very, very fast. It is very, very fast. Why it is very fast? Because it uses concept called snapshots. It uses the concept called snapshots. So see here, for example, I have created a file. I kept one line. Let's take a bigger one. I have created a file. I kept one line. Just think that you have written some code. Okay. This is line number A. Line number A. Okay. Now you have written a code and you have stored this one in a Git repository. That will be stored here. That's what actually happens. So workspace, you have created a file, you kept one line, you stored that one in repository that got stored in a local repository. That means it's in any branch. So that is line A. So after that, you added some code. After that, you have added one more line. That is line B. Again, you stored that one. So you again stored. So that will be stored separately. A is already there. B is there. Now you added one more line called C. That will be stored separately. I told you that every change will be stored separately. We can track easily. It's a proper demarcation. Okay. So this is version 1, version 2, version 3. So we can go back to any previous version. We can bring our version back. Okay. We can bring our version back. So that's why Git also we call version control system. Version control system. We are controlling all versions. Understood it? So we call source code management system. Okay. Or we can call version control system. Okay. We can store the source code as in a version wise. Now, see here, why it is speed here. Every time, so we are taking complete backup, right? That means it is occupying huge storage. So that means it is very heavy. So if it is heavy means it is not speed. But Git is very, very speed. Why it is so? See here, every time you store, you update the file every time. This is a file A, file. You have appended that file A. Now we have, line A is a line B also is. That's extra line we have added. Third time, A and B already there. You have added line C. See here, we have proper demarcation. We can get any version back. So for example, the line size is 1 KB. Here the size is 2 KB. Here the size is 3 KB. So if you combine all these KBs, totally it is occupying 6 KB, right guys? 6 KBs. Till now, is it clear till now? That means it is occupying a lot of space here. No guys, the total size it is occupying in my Git is 3 KB only. Why? Because of snapshots. Okay, because of snapshots. So what actually happens? You append the data, right? In a second one, you append the data here. That means it will have that new file that will have line B, but this will not have line A again. Instead, it will have shortcut of that line A, shortcut. So whenever you refer, you take this file. So whenever you refer this one, back end that will point to this one. So here, this is snapshot, this is actual line. Okay, back end that will point to this line. So whenever you take this file, you will get B as well as A as a line. Because it's A is the only shortcut here, back end that will point to main line here. So same here, you take this one, that means here, there is no size for line A, only we have space, the storage it is occupying for B only. For example, you are referring file C here. Okay, so here, the third one. So we have, it occupies space for line C only here, 1 KB. When you refer line B, that will point to this actual line B in a previous version. When you refer line A, that will point to previous version. But do you have the data here? No. Again, it will refer to back, it will refer to line 1 in a first file. So that's why here it is taking 1 KB, here also it is taking only 1 KB, here also it is taking 1 KB. So combined we have 3 KBs. So at the same time, we have proper demarcation among all 5. There is no confusion at all. Okay, whenever you want to restore the data, so anyways that line is here B, and you will take the data from here, like that. So these are we call snapshot. This is snapshot 1, snapshot 2, snapshot 3, or you can call versions. So it's a space is very less, right? It's occupying only 3 KB, even though every time it is keeping the file separately. So that's why it is very, very speed. Okay. So if it is 6 KB, that's very heavy, right? But it's a 3 KB, it's a very lightweight. That's why since it is lightweight, that's why it is very, very fast. Okay. If 2 people are sitting on the bike, you can maintain good speed. But if 5 people are sitting on the same bike, you cannot expect that much of speed, right? Because it's very heavy. That is one advantage. I'm going to show these things practically, guys. Okay. Second one, parallel branching. Parallel branching. You can create any number of branches. See here.
So I have one question here.
Yes.
Snapshot is nothing but a copy of original. Okay.
Yeah, it's a
And,
backup copy. Simple.
yeah.
It's a backup.
But version control is like different, right? Actually, like it's saving to the from original file to another file. Like if any modification is there, that will be saving to as a different file.
That's what. That will take a snapshot, right? See here. You can declare each and every snapshot is a new version. Understood?
Yeah. When coming to other tech terminology as a snapshot is means it's taking a copy, entire copy of original file. Suppose if you are creating any one
Yes.
file.
I understood. I understood your tone. See here, you cannot generalize the meaning of snapshots. Okay. So in AWS, we have different meaning.
Yeah.
Okay. In AWS, here in AWS, we have EC2 as well as S3. There, the meaning is something different. It will take complete snapshot, complete backup.
Yes.
But in Git, it is having different meaning. It won't take complete backup. Instead, it will take the backup of only appended one, incremental data. Okay. So in some other tools, it is having some different meaning. Okay. We cannot generalize that meaning of snapshot here. So here in Git, it will take the backup of only incremental data. That we call snapshot here, not the whole copy. Okay. If it takes a whole copy backup, then it's again becomes a huge, right, heavy. So then we cannot expect much speed here. Okay. That is what here. It will take the backup of only incremental data. Understood?
Yeah.
So coming to parallel branching. Multiple branches at a time, unlike other SCM tools. See here, you can create any number of branches so that you can work on different features simultaneously. Okay. You can work on any of these branches simultaneously. So that's what we call parallel branching. That means these advantages are not there in other tools, guys. For example, if you take SVN, Subversion, you cannot create branches there. Understood, right? That means you cannot work on different features simultaneously. But in Git, you can create any number of branches so that you can work on different features simultaneously. This is one more advantage.
Sai, one more question.
Yes.
Here. Git always also helps in modularity, like every branch is a master branch. Is that so?
Every branch is a master branch. I didn't get you. What was your question?
I mean, like it helps in modularity.
Can you please elaborate?
Modularity means like individuality is intact of every person who is coding the things.
Yeah, that's why I told you, right? I explained you. So each and every change will be saved separately.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. That's what, separate. No confusion, no overlap. Each and everything will be stored separately.
And then you can integrate the other branches as required, right?
Yes. That don't worry. That I'm going to explain later. Because if you use these words now, it creates confusion for others. Okay, that I'm going to explain later.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. So multiple branches at a time, unlike other SCM tools. Okay, we can create multiple branches. The third one is fully distributed. Fully distributed. See here, I'll tell you this one. Let me take this one. This is India. I mean, I'm working in India. So this is my repository. This is workspace, staging, local repo. This is central repo. This is my colleague who is at USA. So this is his workspace. This is his staging area. This is local repo. So here actually what happens, they write a file, they store in our local repository. That's what we call commit. So whole day they will keep the files like this, whole day. Okay, full day they'll work like this. They'll keep on, adding the files, storing in local repository. We call this process called commit. And you know that you will get a commit ID. So at the end of the day, before he, finishes kind of this work, so he will push that one to central repository. Central repo. Right now the file is here. Okay. So that day morning, that day, if my colleague he wants to start his work, what he will do first, he will pull this code from here. That file is here. So on top of that, if you pull this one, the file will be here as well as in a workspace as well. So what he will do, he will add some code. He'll again commit, that will be stored here, extra content. So again at that day he will push that code, that file here. That means here he has written 10%. It became 10% here. Now he has added some more code, that became 20. Right now it is having 20. So again he'll pull, that means by default he got 20. On top of that he will add some more code. Okay. So that means if you observe carefully, before these teams starts their work, they are taking this copy from the central repo. First, they are taking this complete data from the central repository. On top of that, they are adding some features. In this case, if you lose your central repository, is there any problem here? No, we don't have any problem because the backup copy is present in each and every person's laptop. Understood? The backup copy. If 100 members are working, okay, that backup copy is present in each and every one's machine. Even if you lose central repo, it doesn't make any difference. In fact, without central repo also, you can directly push the code directly. You can give the code, you can take the code. So is there any mandatory that we need to central repo? No, this is not mandatory. But you might be having doubt. That's why we are using this one. So this is what best practice we call. Best practice, good practices. Okay, using central repo is a good practice. So that everyone can take the code from one common central repository. Okay, but it is not mandatory. Even if you lose this central repo, still your data is pretty secure. Understood? Still your data is pretty secure. So that's what. No need internet connection, so no network latency. See here, no need internet connection means you have written a file. You are keeping that file in your local repository. For that, do you need internet? See here, you have your computer, you have CDEV and DDEV. So you have some data in CDEV, you want to copy the data into DDEV. For that, do you need internet connection? No, right? Because everything is happening in only one laptop, in a single laptop. Okay, for that, we don't need any internet connection. So here also, to keep that file in local repo, you don't need any internet connection. Okay, so that's why even you can work if you don't have any internet connection. So you can work for 3 hours, 4 hours, 1 week. Whenever you get internet connection, only you need internet connection for this purpose, right? For pushing purpose to central repo. Even if you don't have internet, still your work will continue. You can continue work. You need not to stop working here, unlike other tools. Okay, so that's why here internet is not mandatory. So very, very rarely we use while pushing this one to central repo. Okay, once in a day, only once. At the end of the day, we push one side. So that time only we use internet. So here one thing, there is no need, that means very, very rarely we use internet. At the same time, there is no network latency. So that means only once we use internet, right? So in that there won't be any network latency. Because even only once, right, even it takes a lot of time, that's fine. But in some other tools, every now and then you need to store that code in central repository, every now and then. Because you cannot store that code in local repository. So for that, every now and then they use internet. So obviously, without internet, they cannot work. And if every now and then they are using internet means latency will be there. Latency means network delay. So that's the advantage here. So literally, we don't need internet. Very, very rarely we use internet. Okay. No need internet connection. So no network gateways. No need server separately. That's what's here. The central server, do we need this one separately? Central server? No need. Actually, it's not required. But it's a best practice of using this one is a best practice. That's why we are using. But it's not mandatory. Each workspace will have its own repo internally. Each workspace. Here, actually, this complete portion comes under workspace. So this workspace is having its own local repo. This workspace is having its own local repo. So each workspace will have its own local repository. Okay. Can create any number of branches. No need to take prior permission. See here, in your local repo, you can create any number of branches. For this, you need not to take any permission. When you have to take a permission, if you want to create a branch here, central repo, then you have to take a permission. Why? Because this belongs to each and everyone. You need manager permission, all these approvals. But since it's a local repository, you can do whatever you want, right? You can create a number of branches. You don't need to take any prior permission. But in some other tools, you cannot create any branches in local repository. Only you can create in central repository, like SCN, Subversion. You cannot create any branches in local repository. You can create branches in only central repository. So further, you need to take prior permission because it belongs to each and everyone, right?
So I have a question here.
Yes.
Normally in companies, how they follow if they are developing the code and they're storing in the central repository. Okay. They are in the different project actually. So while working into the project actually, hello.
Yeah, your voice is breaking. Can you please repeat your question?
Yeah, I'm talking about this repository only.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Before they're working to the project, actually they're taking data from central repository to local repository. Is this the process to work, or like they will directly take from the central repository?
See here, for the first person, they start writing the code, right? So they write the code from the scratch. So you will keep that code in a repository. So second person onwards, they won't write the code again and again. So they will take the code from the repository, and on top of that, they will add new features. So actually what happens in our companies, if you join in any company, by the time already they are using central repo, they have a lot of code. So before you start your work, first you have to take the code from this central repository. Guys, just give me 1 second. I'll be back. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Okay. So first person write the code from the scratch. He will keep the code in central repository. Second person onwards, he will take that code. He will take the code from central repository, and on top of that, he'll add some new features. So that's why by the time you go inside any company, they might be already using central repository and they have a lot of code. So what you do before you start your work, first you will take that complete copy to your local repo. Okay, you will take complete copy. Then on top of that, you will add some new things. Then you will store that one again. That is what actually happens. Understood, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So can create any number of branches. No need to take prior permission. can share code without using central repo as well. I told you, right? See, we can share our code without using central repo. We can bypass the central repo. It's not mandatory, but it's a best practice, right? That's why we are using this one. So that's why it's not mandatory, but it's a good to use. Okay. So that's why we call Git is a distributed version control system. See here, distributed means the backup copy is present in each and every one's machine. Okay, so that's why it is distributed. The backup copy is distributed in each and every one's machine. Even if you lose one machine, still you can get the backup copy from another. Even if you lose one machine, in 100 machines, even if you lose any one machine, okay, even 90 machines, you can get that backup copy from all 10 machines. And at the same time, it is using snapshots, right? That means it takes less space. So that's why Git we call distributed. The backup copy is distributed among each and everyone's workstation. Okay, that's why distributed version control system. Okay, it stores as a new version, right? That in a distributed fashion. Okay, so if you take SVN subversion we call centralized version control system. Centralized version control system. Because in SVN, if you lose your central repo, that means you lose everything. There is no backup. Okay, why? Because they don't have SVN. It doesn't have its own local repo. I'll show this one here. This is the difference between SVN and Git. SVN means subversion. So SVN we call centralized version control system. Git we call distributed version control system. So if you observe carefully, computer A, computer B, they have only their workspace. That means they create some file, they put some code. They don't have their local repository. That's why they keep in a central repository. See here, in central repository that will be stored as a new version. Computer B as well. That's what they do. So if they lose their central repository, that means they lost their code. But in Git, see here, this is computer A, computer B. So computer A is having its own workspace as well as own local repo. So it's also having own local repo. So every now and then they store the code in local repo. At the end of the day, finally they push that code to central repo. Even if they lose one server or even those two servers, still your data is pretty safe. Understood it? Since they don't have their local repositories, they cannot create branches in SVN. But in Git, they have their local repositories, so they can create branches. Because we create branches in local repo, right? Okay. So that's that's the difference between Subversion and Git. That's why nowadays, people are they are not at all using Subversion. Everyone is using Git only nowadays. Okay, that's why it became so popular. So coming to snapshots. So what is a snapshot? It's a backup for data recovery. Snapshot in the sense it's a backup. Generic meaning of snapshot is backup. So in Git, it take the backup of only incremental data, appended data. That is very important, guys. Remember. Okay. Represents some data of particular time. So now I have taken a backup. So I have data till now, right? Okay. So it represents some data of particular time. Okay. The time when you take snapshot, that will have that backup copy till that particular time. Stores the changes only, not whole copy. This is very important. It stores the changes only. That's what. Changes means only the appended, incremental data, appended data, not the whole copy. Commit. Commit, see here, store changes in repo. Here repo means local repo. So we have workstation, staging area. We write file, we create file, we keep some code, we store locally. So this is we call commit. Okay, store changes in a repo means local repo. We'll get commit ID. For each and every commit, you'll get commit ID. Commit ID contains 40 alphanumeric characters, 40 long alphanumeric characters. So it uses a concept of checksum. Okay, so checksum concept, it uses checksum. Based on that only it will create that commit ID. So what is checksum? Checksum, it's a tool in Linux. It's a tool in Linux operating system. By default, you'll get this tool. So what actually does? It generates a binary value equivalent to the data present inside the file. Equivalent to the data present inside the file. So that 40 alphanumeric characters will be generated based upon the content of that particular file. For example, I have 1 lakh lines. So I got one commit ID here. So in that 1 lakh files, I have added one extra dot only. So content got changed, so commit ID will be different. That's why we can track each and every change. By seeing this commit ID, we can track the change. Okay, so it creates a commit ID based upon the content present inside the file. So if content is same, then commit ID will be same, right? That is how. Even if you change one dot, see here, one dot, commit ID will be different. It will be changed. Okay. So track the changes. So we can track each and every changes. Yes, commit ID is different, right? Someone did some change. Who did that change and why he did and what time, everything we can track. Okay.
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes.
Yeah, so this commit is related to central repository or local repository?
Local repository.
Okay.
Central repository as well, that you will understand later on once I show practically. Mainly local repository. So see here, Git stages. Git stages. So this is workspace, this is central repo. Workspace divided into 3 categories. So workspace, I mean this our local repository. Workspace staging area, local repo. This is central repo. So workspace is a place where you can see files physically and modify. I have a file where I can see the files physically and I can modify. Staging area, see here. When you commit, that will go first here to staging area. Staging area. So what is the use of staging area? I told you, right? Git will take snapshot. The snapshot will be taken at the staging area. So 90% people, they don't know what is the purpose of staging area. Okay. So it's a place where snapshots will be taken. Okay. Snapshots will be taken here. Staging area. And it's a buffer area. Buffer means it's an area between two areas. So it's an area between workspace as well as local repo. Okay. That's what we call buffer. And it's a virtual, guys. You cannot see. You can see workspace, you can see local repo, but you cannot see this one. It's a virtual one. Okay. Now repository. That's what here local repository. Store changes locally. The changes will be stored locally here. And finally, repository, it is central. See this one. Store changes centrally. So finally, we push this one. So that will be stored here. Okay. Store changes centrally. Understood? So these are the stages, 4 stages. Workspace, staging area, local repository, central repository. These are 4 stages of Git. So types of repositories.
Sahi,
Yes.
yeah, we can directly change the code in the central repository, right? Instead of local also.
No, we cannot do that. That's what I'm going to explain here.
Okay.
So here types of repositories. 2 types of repositories. One is bare repository, another one is non-bare. All central repositories we call bare repositories. All local repositories we call non-bare repositories. Okay. Central repositories are bare repositories. Local repositories are non-bare repositories. Okay. So see here. Whatever. Okay. So see here. This is my local repo. This is central repo. So central repo. Central repo is only to store the code and share the code, guys. Only to store that code and share that code only. Okay, not to do some modifications. So you cannot do any modifications in central repo. Okay, so it's only for storing and sharing. All central repositories are bare repositories. So we call these central repositories as a bare repository. Bare repository means where we use for storing. See here, I store some code, I'll share to some other person. That's why it is only for storing and sharing, not to do some modifications. But whereas here, all local repositories, these local repositories are non-bare repositories. So where you can modify the file. How we can modify? See here, because you have workspace. Workspace is a location where you create file, where you write some code, right? Where you can modify. Okay, only in workspace only you can modify the file. You can see file physically. Okay, since central repository will not contain any workspace, that's why you cannot modify. Okay, so Local repository, that's what non-where, where you can modify the file. All local user repositories we call local repositories. This is my own repository, right? So that's why here, this we call local repository. Understood? Central repository is only for storing and sharing. Local repositories are for editing. You can edit as well the file. Understood? Understood? Don't worry about GitHub. So we can use GitHub as a central repository, and we can do some modification there as well. So don't worry about that one as of now. I'll explain later. Okay, as of now, understand this much. Central repository is only for storing and sharing. We cannot do any modifications here. But local repository, we can do modifications as well. Why? Because we have workspace. Why we cannot do any modifications in local central repository? Because we don't have workspace in central repository. And you know that in only workspace only we can do some modifications, right? Okay. These are types of repository. Understood, guys? Understood theory? Tomorrow onwards we are going to see practical.
Sai, can I hear me?
Yes.
I have doubt. Let's say the person 1, he's created a one file. Let's call it as a version 1. He's committed in the central repository. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Then the person 2 and 3 both are taken at the same time. They do their modification with it is stored and committed in their local repositories.
Okay.
Right. Then how that data will be merged?
Yes.
Okay.
See here, that time actually what happens, if both are taking the code at the same time and do modification and pushing again, so conflict happens. Conflict. Okay. So I'll explain that one. So actually good out, but anyways that is in my next slide. So I'll show that one practically. There you will get better clarity. Just hold your doubt for one more day, because anyways I have detailed explanation over there for this question. Okay. So I'll tell you how conflicts will be created, will happen, and how we resolve that conflict and everything. I'm going to explain.
Okay.
Yeah. Any more doubts from anyone?
So I have a question related to the snapshot. You said that on every change they take a snapshot. So if we write line A, B, and C, so on the third snapshot there will be all 3 lines or just the C line?
There will be only C line, but regarding line 1 and line 2, it will have only shortcuts, not the complete backup. For example, see here, you have a shortcut here. What is the size of this shortcut? It's nothing, right? 0, right? But you can see this, you can open this one. So what actually happens backend, it will redirect to the main file, right? So that's why I say, so if you understood by now, I think you understood this.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, that's all. Any more doubts from anyone? Once I show practically all these things, your doubts will be clarified, guys. No doubts?
Sai, snapshot, you mentioned that it's a virtual, so it never saves anywhere in the repository?
No, that will be stored, but you cannot see like a snapshot complete. Suppose you want to take that snapshot, as a snapshot format you cannot see. You can see in a different format. That I'll show you tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll show you practically.
Okay, thank you.
So this is all about theory, guys, theory part of Git. So tomorrow we'll jump into practical from the scratch. Tomorrow I'll explain how to install and how to deal with all these things. Okay. So that is all about theory part of Git, theory part only. We have so many commands out there in Git. So we need to practice all those commands. Okay. So we'll start from tomorrow. So that's it, guys. That's it for today. Let's meet tomorrow at same time.
Okay. Do we need to have any account to be created before we have a hands-on?
No, nothing. That's why I told you right in my demo itself. Before I start anything, I'll start from the scratch. Okay. I'll explain from the base, how installation onwards.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.